in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Well, hello there and welcome to Friday. I don't know how we got here. Another ridiculously warm spring, albeit just by a day or two. It's March! It's going to be very shocking next week when things get almost back to normal, but not really. They'll still be above normal. Anyway, joining me today is Bill O Driscoll of course, Pittsburgh City Paper, who happened to bump into me in the elevator.
I didn't knock you over or
No,
anything.
you didn't. No, I mean, it was metaphorical.
Yes.
We happened upon each other, and this was a day or two ago, maybe yesterday, maybe Tuesday, maybe Monday. Who the hell knows? Anyway, you alerted me to a story in this week's issue, which I had not noticed because I've been giving Potter trouble on the fact that I wasn't that interested in it because it was all music, and it's not music I listen to, and blah, 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 blah. And it turns out there was other stuff in here.
Yeah, really?
Well, it turns out there was other stuff, including something about a subject that is, strangely, I haven't been hearing a lot about lately. I think my sister's pointed out, she said, have you noticed that with this ridiculously warm weather over the last month that you haven't heard the climate deniers?
Yeah,
much?
funny how they disappeared.
It closed them up a little bit. It shuts them up. All you need is one ice storm. They'll be back. But
yes,
or a slightly larger. If they looked beyond the end of their noses, they would know that in fact Europe has had a harsher winter than usual. You know, what's going on is weather extremes.
Yes.
And I think it's Potter who's always railed about the mislabeling of the phenomenon, that to call it global warming is a mistake. I don't know how that became the...
Well, it's not a mistake so much as not the whole truth. The planet as a whole is getting warmer, but that's not all that's happening.
But as we experience it, depending on where we happen to be located at the moment, the fact is it's extreme. It's weather change.
Yes.
That would not... If you said the weather is global weather change, you couldn't deny that. Could you? Would they still be denying?
No, but I think sure they would be. But the big trend really is warming, and that's affecting these other things. Because of course, in the winter it can get warmer, and that can make it snow more.
That's true. There's more moisture in,
Correct.
in
as
the
long
warm
as
air.
all that you need moisture, and you need temperatures under 32 degrees.
Right.
So the warmer it gets, the closer it gets to that 32 degrees, the more precipitation there can be.
But people have certainly noted that the weather does seem to be more extreme and more violent.
Yes.
And that was all predicted by these same scientists who are now supposedly part of some cabal to, I don't know what. What is the purpose behind this cabal to get us to think that the Earth is warming up?
Well, to get us to do horrible things like renewable energy and, stuff like that, dangerous things. Like getting off of fossil fuels and using less energy.
But what would be their purpose in that? Oh, because they're invested in, to make money because they're invested in... I don't understand what they think the conspiracy would be.
I think...
I mean, the purpose of it.
I don't know either. I don't know who would benefit by that, really. I mean, there's certainly nobody's going to benefit by that as much as the fossil fuel industry is benefiting by burning all the stuff. But on some level, it's probably, futile to speculate. But that would lead us into our subject for today, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. And the subject, buried in all this music stuff in this issue, is a story that Bill did about a scientist at Penn State.
Yes.
Who, as I began to think about it, I thought, oh, yeah, I remember that brouhaha about some British scientist or something, and it was used by the deniers, and then they were saying that they've been screwing around with the research, and then there was a Penn State scientist who got pulled into it somehow, right?
It wasn't...
And that is this guy you talked to.
Yes. It wasn't just used by the deniers. It was, in fact, a fake controversy created by the deniers.
Okay, that's okay.
So to talk about this guy specifically, his guy's name is Michael Mann. He's a climate scientist at Penn State University. He's been there for several years now. And he was, one of these guys who, since the 90s, has been researching climate change. The reason you might have heard of him before that is because he was the lead author on a study that in the late 90s showed that the last 50 years of the 20th century were really anomalously warm, were really bizarrely warm in the past 1,000 years of life in the Northern Hemisphere, right? So the graph they made has this sharp upward turn as we get toward the end of the 20th century. And if you look at it, it looks like a hockey stick laid on its back. So they came up with this nickname for it called the hockey stick. The study was published in a peer-reviewed journal. It was replicated numerous times because it was a very good visual way, like an icon, to show, yes, indeed, the planet is getting warmer.
Something, when all of a sudden something that's been sort of like this,
steady,
all of a sudden goes
shoots up
like that.
Right.
That would get your attention.
Right, almost off the charts. And then in 2001, the hockey stick graph was further publicized by the IPCC, is this international body that is kind of the gold standard for science on climate change, and they used it to show what was happening. So he was instantly attacked for this by interest groups, by talk show pundits, right-wing pundits, by right-wing senators in Congress, would lambast
attacked
him.
By what? I mean,
because
simply noting something that was
well, exactly, and
data reflects
right.
This.
People would come up and say, well, there's this problem with his study and that problem with his study, but in fact, his results have been replicated. Even if, as he says, even if his thing was totally wrong, there's enough other people who have since found the same exact thing happening. And the way they recreate this historical data is by using things like ancient tree rings,
right.
Ice cores. They study coral reefs because all these things are affected by temperature. And so if you study them, you can go back and you can recreate what the temperature was. And then, of course, starting in the last 100 years or so, you have actual instrumental data to show how hot the planet's gotten. Okay, so Michael Mann. So fast forward to 2009. We're coming up on the annual Global Climate Summit. That year was in Copenhagen. And just a month before that, by sheerest coincidence, some anonymous hacker broke into a British university's website, stole all these emails, doctored them, edited them to make them say things that they never meant to say, and then publicized them to make people like Mann look like they were conspiring to fool the public about climate change.
Wait a minute. So you mean that
Yes.
whole thing was totally, it has since been why didn't I know that?
Completely. Well, of course.
I remember the scandal.
The lies,
I
right.
don't remember that it was found that a still anonymous hacker had...
Still anonymous, right. And, of course, people didn't focus on the fact that somebody had illegally broken into these private emails.
I don't know,
but right.
Had messed with them,
They were edited to say things that they didn't really say.
Wow. Well, yeah. I remember we I think all remember the brouhaha that occurred.
And of course, it distracted from the climate talks.
Of course.
It made people be doubtful that climate change was real. There was a downturn in the public opinion polls in terms of people acknowledging the reality of climate change.
Well, have you seen, by the way, that continues apace?
It's actually recovered somewhat. It actually has recovered somewhat. If you look at the latest polls, it's sort of edged back up. And a lot of that, they say, has to do with weather, like you're talking about. When we see the weird weather, when we see the anomalously warm, not just like 1 week of warm weather, like we're having now, but when you see year on year piled on each other.
Well, in fact, a lack of a winter. We didn't have a winter this year.
Barely, yeah. We had a week of winter, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's unsettling. Okay, so this guy, Professor Michael Mann at Penn State, has had it, right? I mean, he started to fight back. The thing about these scientists is they don't fight back like you have to.
It's not their training. Their training is they go into the lab, they go into the field, they find their data, they put it together, and they're happy, and then they go out for a beer. They're not used to being dragged into the public arena and sort of viciously
having to do fisticuffs with
their character assassinated. This guy received threatening emails threatening him and his family.
He was probably called a slut.
He may have been, or the scientific version thereof. Yes.
Okay, so he was personally maligned and all this kind of crap, and he, thank God, it does fight back.
They had started to fight back before, I should say. There's a good website called realclimate.com, which kind of debunks a lot of the bad science about climate. And he was one of the scientists who was a big contributor to that. They started that several years ago because they said, look, we just can't. The other thing with science is, they do their studies, they're doing papers in these peer-reviewed journals. They publish, they submit their papers, they get reviewed by others. That can take a year, right? And then they get published. And then if there's problems with it, it can take another year to address them. Whereas these, the deniers come out that minute, the first minute they see your study, they have stuff sitting on the shelf already that they're going to drag out. Right. And they have scientists who are in the employ of the fossil fuel industry who are going to come out and obfuscate the issue. They're going to come out and say, well, this is wrong because this. Nobody knows any better, and sounds, wow, like there's some doubt there. And in fact, there isn't, because the criticisms are not nearly as well-founded as the initial research was.
But mainstream media and even the squawk boxy media that a lot of people get their information from, they don't make distinctions about things, right? They argue in these big, this kind of information doesn't get out like a big headline that says, even I, who I think read a lot, didn't know that those hacked emails were a fabrication of sorts. I didn't know.
Yeah, and so they have started to fight back some, and this guy has a new book out called The Hockey Stick and the Climate Wars. Michael Mann is the author, and it's all about kind of the background of that. He explains, the science behind climate change, but it's also a lot about how he was attacked and about the methods that were used to attack him falsely.
And he really talks about how the deniers operate and how they use, just the kind of bully boy thuggery of, intimidation.
And this isn't unique to climate change or new. He talks about one of the strategies that he says is that deniers of scientific findings use is they single out one scientist or one study, and they try to make it seem as though if I discredit or vilify this one person enough, that's going to eliminate.
Okay.
That's going to change everybody. So cigarettes. Same thing was done.
Okay, but that's like a predator going after a herd of of animals.
Yes.
You find the one that's the weakest and attack that, right?
Right. And the other thing, and this feeds back into the media thing you were talking about before, is there's the famous line from the tobacco industry, similar campaign to discredit findings about the dangers of smoking cigarettes. Doubt is our product. Right, doubt is our product. That was a line from.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that was basically, if we can introduce our own studies, even if we funded them, and even if they're not really reliable studies, counter studies to say, well, then the public doesn't know the difference. Most journalists don't know the difference. And so they're quoted for a long time in the 90s. Whenever there'd be a story about climate change, there would be people saying, hey, the Earth's getting warmer and it's probably going to keep getting warmer. And then they would feel they have to quote somebody who says, no, it's not really getting warmer. It's just a natural variation. It's nothing to worry about. And people had no way to know. They just think then, oh, it's a controversy.
Right.
They don't know that 999 out of 1,000 scientists say the Earth is warming. This is something to be very, very worried about. And then they find the one guy who says something different, and they quote them as though they have equal weight. This continues to some extent. So that's one big problem, and the lack of scientific literacy in the media and among the public as well.
You bet. So they also say, and you hear this in the deniers of evolution, and when creationism comes up, and teaching of science, and God help the science teachers of this world. God help the high school science teacher today, when all of a sudden the subject matter has become simply a political football. But you often hear the deniers say, prove it. There's no proof. You say this is a theory or something. Well, here's my theory.
Right. And what this comes down to often, and you'll see also this kind of progression. At one point, the deniers would say, well, the Earth isn't really getting warmer at all, and then...
Well, how the heck can they say that?
And then when that became obvious and no longer possible to acknowledge, they would say, well, it is getting warmer, but people aren't causing it. Because
that's right.
Because of course it comes down to this thing, if it's man-made or not, right? Because if it's a natural variation of the Earth, there's probably not much we can do about it. But if we're actually causing it, which science tells us seems to be the case, then we can do something about it. We can stop burning fossil fuels. We can reforest. We can do all these other things to try to, mitigate at least future disasters that will be visited upon future generations, even if we can't do anything about, what's happening right now. But the proof standard is really interesting, because I asked Michael Mann about this, and he addresses it in his book. And he says, his line is, proof is for mathematical theorems and alcoholic beverages. In science, there is really no such thing as ultimate proof. Newtonian physics, which dates back 5 centuries, to Sir Isaac Newton, is not proven, right? It's just the best explanation for the phenomenon we see in front of us, right? So Newtonian physics, if you're just throwing a baseball, it works pretty well to explain what's going to happen to that baseball with gravity and everything. But when you start to move toward the speed of light, Newtonian physics kind of breaks down. So then we have relativity. But of course, people question relativity too.
Although that seems to be holding its own so far.
It's holding its own because it does explain things, but there's no way to prove that these things are actually prove in the way that you mean with a mathematical theorem when you're just dealing with abstracts, because we're dealing with a messy, complicated world here, right? So we go with the best explanation we have until we get a better explanation that is a better theory for telling us why things are acting like they are. Right now, human forcing of the climate is the best explanation we have for the bizarre weather we see in front of us.
Oh, dear God. So this guy, now the new warrior, it's not what he intended. He was just a scientist minding his own business. And now he's out there on the front lines of this political football.
Yeah, pretty courageous. And it's interesting that you mention politics, too, because when these issues get covered badly by the media, they're often covered not as scientific arguments.
Oh, no.
But they're covered as political debates.
Absolutely.
In which case, you do want to have both sides there. If you're just talking about abstract ideas like, should we have taxes or not have taxes, right? Which is the better thing to do, then then it's probably fair to quote the other side and let them make their best case. But when you're talking about science, there's good evidence and there's bad evidence.
So a lot of people will say, when he's speaking, by the way, in Pittsburgh, we'll tell you where and when. So a lot of people who are deniers would argue that there should be somebody on the stage with him on the other side, right?
Right. Yeah.
I heard, I don't know where, I was probably listening to NPR or something, some young girl, bright high school kid, who doesn't believe in global warming, And I don't know why she came to their attention, but maybe she caused a stir in her science class or whatever. Anyway, she agreed to go on the air with this climate scientist, a lovely, patient woman.
I think I heard this, yeah.
Did you hear it?
I think I did, yeah. Go ahead, though.
And she, I mean, my memory is, and the woman, the scientist would say something, and what do you think? Okay. And she went back and forth with this girl until, I mean, there's no way anybody listening could come to it. And the girl wouldn't, when the thing was over, the girl could not back down. She had, it's like a faith. It's like, it's like faith then. I mean, she was smart. She was hearing these things. She was having trouble coming up with possible reasons why it would be something else or whatever. And she was fair enough to sit and do this in front of a lot of people, but she couldn't make the final leap. At least she couldn't then. It was odd.
Yeah.
It was unsettling, actually.
Impervious to
It was
evidence.
unsettling.
Yes.
It was unsettling because she was a bright kid.
Well, I think it is a matter of faith. I mean, there's sometimes people who are of a particular religious persuasion. You will hear them say, "Well, God wouldn't let that happen." Basically.
Yeah, that's why he lets babies get killed. What about Noah's Ark? I mean, God is going to be very, very mean.
And I think, to be clear here, I think probably the people we have to worry about most are the people that have vested financial interest in keeping things the way they are. It's not,
in funding a bunch of crap research that gets covered
for the same reason, sure. And there's the people who are in their employ who do their bidding, the right wing think tanks and so forth. We should mention here, being Pittsburghers, that one of the big funders of the people who attacked Michael Mann.
Oh, I'm going to be shocked.
Was Richard Mellon Scaife.
Oh my God, you're kidding.
No way. The Commonwealth Foundation was one of the big antagonists of Michael Mann coming out with bad science about climate, and one of their big funders historically has been Richard Mellon Scaife, publisher of the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. But there's also people who are kind of ideologically invested in believing that the Earth is kind of this infinite well of resources that we can just keep continuing. This is like basic free market ideology, right? That the Earth is this infinite well of resources.
It's just like this honey pot we can keep going.
That's infinite, and somebody keeps filling it back up. We don't have to wait for the bees to make more honey. It's just going to always be there, And so they're really invested in this because if they acknowledge that there's limits on things, then they have to acknowledge that the economy has to be set up differently, that it can't be this pure free market system because eventually it's going to bankrupt the actual Earth.
It's magical thinking. It's refusing to. It's childlike. It reminds me of my kids. Explaining to his cousin about this little door in the second story of someone's house. And he said, "It's amazing. You throw dirty clothes down there."
Yeah.
And they come back clean and folded.
Elves.
Yeah. Well, he just thought it was the magic door. But it's like, this is the magic Earth. Yeah. And it's just going to we can't somehow harm it. It's just ours. And God gave it to us. Okay.
Maybe he gave it to us to take care of.
Oh. All right. Michael Mann is the professor, and he'll be at Pitt.
Yep.
At Thaw Hall.
Ironically enough. Thaw. Oh,
that's funny.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, he'll be at Thaw Hall talking about global change, climate change, and that's Thursday, April 12th. So it's we're giving you a nice big lead time there. But 3:45 p.m., I'm sure that's free. 3:45 p.m.
Yeah, it's a free talk, right? It's at the university, so they kind of do things not on real people's schedules.
That's too bad.
You might have a hard time making it there if you have a job.
Okay, but if you want to read more, the full interview that Bill did with Professor Mann is available at, of course, www.pghcitypaper.com.
He's a swell guy, too, I should say.
Is he a nice guy?
Very nice guy, yes.
Well, so are you, and
Aw.
I thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, William. You go on and go off and what are you writing about today?
I
You don't know
gotta
yet?
get back to it. Yeah, I don't know.
No, he doesn't know.
A lot of things.
Okay.
All right.
The life of an ink-stained scribe. Indeed. Thanks a million. Okay. I see that Gigi has written, and it says regarding Tom, and I can tell you that all is well. Gigi says, did you find out what happened to Tom? For those who don't know, Tom joins us on Thursdays, and yesterday he wasn't here. Gigi also says, by the way, Jess, her video and audio are in sync today, which is not as funny as it was yesterday. Maybe it's something about Susan. Maybe Susan is not to be seen in anything other than a sort of ludicrous manner. I don't know what it would be. Tom is fine, although he wasn't. He was not well. He was feeling very ill, and I can even read you his email, which is titled "My Apologies." He's such a on-time sort of guy that it was a little surprising. He said, "I'm deeply embarrassed that I missed this morning's show. I was ill yesterday. Didn't get to bed until very, very late. My alarm didn't go off. I slept until 11:30. I was so out of it I didn't even hear the phone ringing." He really just was down and out. So he's fine. He's recovered, and he will be joining us next Thursday. Okay? So that's that. It is so beautiful out. When I was driving, I drive I should walk it, but there are days when obviously I really wouldn't want to. And anyway, I have to get up a whole half hour earlier, and I'm not inclined to. But as I drove to the bus stop today, every street is just lined with trees in fruit trees in bloom and magnolia trees, and geez, the grass is so blindingly emerald green, and the sky is astonishingly robin's egg blue. It's just so dang beautiful. And it's so rare in Pittsburgh to have any stretch of weather that is, to me, comfortably warm, no humidity, blue skies. This is just, it's heaven. It's just heaven. And I understand it's going to end tomorrow. But still, not bad. It's hard to let go of once we've had this, I guess what the old folks call false spring. But this is not a false spring. It is simply a premature spring. It's a preemie. And it seems as though it was a gift from God, when in fact it might be a warning. A warning from God. Well, in other news, big shock, cocaine contributed to Whitney Houston's death. So it's still not clear. She might have had a heart attack in the tub, drowned, whatever. They don't know. They don't know. It's just sad. New car sales are surging. Unemployment rolls are dropping. Lots of really positive signs. I don't know what the hell the Republicans are going to do. They're only going to be left with gas prices to attempt to take down the president on. I don't know. But I would not. I guess Santorum's going to win Louisiana big tomorrow. But everywhere he wins, he doesn't really reap the delegates that he's supposed to have, because that would have necessitated him having a large campaign effort in the earliest stages. The idea that he's going to take the Pennsylvania primary, he'll win it, but he really won't. He'll win the popular vote, which is meaningless. It's meaningless. Romney will get the lion's share. Actually, Romney and Paul will get the lion's share of Pennsylvania delegates. So all you Republicans who are going to go to the polls and want to give Santorum a lift, fine, you'll give him a little lift, but a Pyrrhic victory. It's not going to change a dang thing. So the inevitability is going to happen, and we're going to be treated to a presidential campaign with a dynamic president running for re-election and this automaton, strangely not. Would you be surprised if Romney was found to be an alien? You know, if in fact all of a sudden somebody was able to rip off his handsome, perfect face and his perfect family, and there was a nightmare monster underneath it, who was just pretending to be human. It's true. He just doesn't seem like any human being you've ever known and could relate to. You'd almost think he has, a form of Asperger's. He has difficulty comfortably socializing, talking, sounding normal. And I wouldn't have thought that before. When people initially were talking about Romney's inauthenticity and all this kind of stuff, and you didn't know where he was, and he waffled and this and that, I thought, it's the usual crap that they say about. But now, having seen him up close and personal for more months than I care to remember, the longer he stays in your line of vision, the more you don't like him or believe him. Hello, caller. Hello? Hello? Was it what do you mean? They call and then they hang up before I even say hello? Well, that's not very nice. Or they were going to say, it's just as well, because when that happens, I wait for somebody to say, yes, I'm trying to reach Lynn Cullen. Or, do you know how I can find Lynn Cullen? I understand. Here it comes. Watch, here, what? Is it again?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello. The first time...
Oh, your damn phone.
No, I'm on a regular phone. Now, the first time I called, I just got a bunch of noise.
That was me, Clarence.
it was a little bit worse. I couldn't understand anything. It was just very loud static.
Okay, go. You're on.
Mitt Romney. I figured out what's going on.
What?
Have you ever seen that movie Zelig? Leonard Zelig?
Yes. With Woody Allen.
With Woody Allen.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he just changes into wherever he is. You know how he used to be a moderate when he was in Massachusetts?
Yeah.
Now he's a right wing?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when he went down south, he was eating
grits
hi, y'all. And he was a bunch of black people singing, "Who let the dogs out?" He just changes. Whatever he is, he just changes into that person.
So how do you think he'll... Okay, so that means that to elect him is electing a non... So how would he be... What kind of a president would he be?
Well, when he gets into debate with Barack Obama, he'll become like a Nigerian, Christian, Muslim, fascist, socialist. No.
Don't you think, though, if he were to gain the White House, that he would be... Then he would have what he wanted, so he could... The real Mitt Romney, assuming there is one somewhere, would come out. Who is it?
Yeah, I actually do.
Who would that be?
I actually think he's a moderate.
I do, too.
It's like... You could have just switched him and John Huntsman, but John Huntsman would have been John Huntsman through the whole thing.
Right.
Mitt Romney, to me, is something psychological. You know what I mean? There's some kind of discomfort with himself.
He's very... I used to think that Richard Nixon was the most uncomfortable president we've ever had. I mean, in terms of how would somebody with that sense of, you can tell, not comfortable around people or in his own skin, how would somebody like that go into politics where you have to, press the flesh and be a regular guy and stuff? He always looks so stiff.
You know what's really telling? The Nixon tapes.
Yes.
He knew the real He knew the real Richard Nixon wouldn't fly with the American people.
No.
So he had to be a fake Richard Nixon. He was uncomfortable not being himself. And that's what's going on, I think, with Mitt Romney right now. He knows the real Mitt Romney is not going to be...
It wouldn't fly with the Republican Party.
With that far-right Republicans.
And
exactly.
they know that. They're right. They're right about him, the ones that don't want him. He does not represent their point of view.
It's a good thing that he worked with the Olympics, because he's going to have to do some serious gymnastics, some twisting and turning and flipping to get back to the middle to get elected.
Jeez. Well, that old every time he makes a change, etch-a-sketches will come out all over the place.
I used that etch-a-sketch line 2 years ago on a blog, and I'm so upset that I didn't copyright it or something.
You better copyright every other word you say from now on, because
I think so.
You're often ahead of things.
Like Colbert does. He goes trademarked after he thinks of something.
It's something, but the good news, if there is, God forbid Romney should win, but the good news is he ain't a right-winger, really.
No.
Yeah, and that's why the Republicans really don't want him.
Here's the thing. I've been hoping for this. I really, really, really hope he gets nominated, which is almost inevitable.
Yeah.
Because that far right, their heads are going to be exploding. You're going to just see blowing up heads. Do I vote for the black guy or the Mormon? Heads are going to explode.
But you know what? I still think that their animus toward Obama will trump their, disgust and revulsion about Romney. Don't you think? They're going to go to the polls. They will vote. They'll hold their noses, but they will vote because they want that socialist, black guy out of there.
They would go to the poll in bigger numbers if Rick Santorum was the nominee.
But the moderates wouldn't, and
the moderates wouldn't. Yeah, there's actually almost a lose-lose situation.
Well, I certainly hope you're right about that.
And I said this before too. And if the Democrats are smart, they'll use a lot of more effort trying to get Congress and state legislators and that kind of thing back in the Democratic hands.
Well, but that's not what Democrats are doing. The Republicans have that sewn up. And, in fact, a lot of the Tea Partiers, as you know, are saying, okay, well, just screw it. I'm boycotting the presidential election. Let's continue to go after the Congress and legislatures and do our business that way. And you can see what business they can do. I mean, what are we talking about these days? We're talking about all these laws or attempted laws coming out of all these Republican-controlled states that are on their face unconstitutional, that are in your face, that are in your vagina, that are in every orifice of your body. These people will continue that apace.
You know what? Now I know why they call them holy. But anyway, what I'm doing now is jumping on people who, for some reason, didn't vote in 2010. And
there's millions
showing them the consequences of it.
Yeah. Well, it is a teachable moment, isn't it? God.
Yeah.
Hey, always a pleasure talking to you.
Same here.
Thank you, Clarence.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
And that was Clarence in Canonsburg. Okay, I am going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to BergBargains.com for great deals to Vegas. BergBargains.com, Pittsburgh's only online deal site where the deals don't expire. BergBargains.com.
Sokolowski Med Spa is Pittsburgh's newest med spa, offering the latest in skincare treatments and medical-grade skincare products. Their providers have years of experience with aesthetic treatments and technologies such as Botox, Restylance, Juvederm, chemical peels, Retin-A, and spider vein treatments. They offer a discreet, personalized environment with only the best quality proven services and products. Call them today for a free consultation. 412-259-8628. The Sokolowski Med Spa. 412-259-8628.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okay. Hey, that documentary we did on immigration, it won an award. already. I didn't even know it was out there yet. I thought it was premiering this Sunday. What do I know? It got something called a Telly Award. Was granted an award in the 33rd International Telly Awards in the documentary category, which is pretty cool. Here's Chuck on Romney. Excuse me while I wait for my very slow computer here. Lynn, I tend to look at Romney more like a puppet than a robot. I think there's a team of puppeteers telling him how to dress, how to speak, what to say, and how to react. The sad part of this is that if he gets into the White House, there will be a similar team pulling his strings and therefore running the country. Well, that's what I always thought about George W. Because, that he very clearly thought, it doesn't matter, he's got the name, let's get him in there, and then we can control him. And Dick Cheney, who he asked Cheney to find him a vice presidential candidate, and Cheney looks and looks and looks, can't find anybody except himself. He said, I'll be your guy. And so it was it was the most cynical, in my memory, what do I know? What do we know about what really goes on? Chuck also says it bothers me that he will win the nomination by virtue of the fact that he has the most money and that he's used that money to degrade his opponents rather than promote his own virtues and ideas. Absolutely. But it's a degradation of the process and really look no further than your august Supreme Court of these here United States, the Roberts Court, packed by these Republican presidents with knee-jerk conservatives, and this is what they've done. They've given over our political structure totally. It was already almost totally in their pockets, just absolute, put it in their pockets, their bottomless pockets, and said, have at it. You have as much right to become involved in the political process as any Tom, Dick, or Harry. But unlike, of course, Tom, Dick, or Harry, they've got millions upon millions upon millions with which to pollute the discussion. It's the saddest thing. It is the most, and I really do think there are people on the right and the left, we've mentioned this before, that have said that could well be, it'll go down in history as one of the single worst Supreme Court decisions of all time. And believe me, there've been some, as we know, if you study American history. But really, unsettling. So, I just happened upon this. I happened upon it by, of course, opening up my daily news nuggets today. And this has always struck me as so true. Our sense in American political discourse of what constitutes right and left, liberal, conservative, has gotten pulled so far to the right over the last 25 years that what used to be, we've talked about this a million times, that what used to be a conservative position is now a liberal position. That a conservative president, like, hello.
Hey, Lynn.
Yes?
George in Moon.
George, hi. How you doing?
Pretty good. I was a little surprised that you weren't covering an event that's taking place tomorrow, that you being the past queen of rallies in D.C.
The atheist.
Yes.
Well,
you didn't touch it. Even the Post-Gazette covered that.
Well, I'll tell you what. I didn't know about it until a few days ago when, here, I have it right here. One of the gentlemen who's going wrote me, and I thought, you know what, I'll have him on maybe after the fact, to localize it. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But this is a gathering of, rationalists, or what do you call it, or atheists, or what exactly?
Non-theists.
Okay, that'll do it too. Come at it from that point of view.
Well, you can see they're calling it the Reason Rally.
Okay. But
there's this. This is kind of historical, really. I got to say this. I used to be a member of American Atheists.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I was a past president of the chapter back in the 80s. And one of the things the non-believers, non-theists, free-thinkers, one of the problems they have is the same that other philosophical types have, and that is that there is what would you call it? There's a sectarian divide among them also.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
And that's what I found in American Atheists like years ago, that you had different types of atheists.
Absolutely.
And non-believers and everything. And they could never get together.
Well, that's because
the humanists hated the American Atheists.
Yeah.
The Madeline Murray's group hated the other group.
Right.
The Freedom from Religion Foundation didn't like the other group because they weren't doing this. And all the litmus tests about a real non-believer and a fake one and a retaliatory one and a militant one. Well, this is historical, I've got to say. And I think some attention should be paid to it.
Okay, the Reason Rally, I'm just looking at his email.
Yeah, it's called the Reason Rally.
The Reason Rally, and Bill Maher will be there, and
tomorrow.
Richard Dawkins, Eddie Izzard,
right.
Lots of other people. They're expecting as many as 30,000 people to show. There's at least 100 that we're aware of that I guess are traveling to Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh.
In fact, I was trying to get a bus, and they're all filled up.
So I have to tell you, I was what intrigued me more was that he also says that on April 3rd, that's coming up, obviously, at Pitt, there will be a panel discussion on secularism on campus. And Pitt and Duquesne students will be talking. Duquesne recently refused to recognize the existence. They would not allow a student group to form that was made up of secularists. I mean,
surprise there, right?
Well, okay, so that I thought we would deal with it more like that, but I think I will be taking this up next week. But
George, let me finish my point though, about the fact that this is historical. These groups are getting together really for the first time, and new groups have formed in the last 30 years that I've been involved in this, and this is unprecedented, really. The fact that American Atheists, the American Humanist Association, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Absolutely.
The Society of Humanistic Judaism. Mm-hmm. It goes on and on. There's like 24 groups that are finally coordinating, talking, and sharing, and see some commonality in their points of view. I mean, I think it's historical.
Well, and it's probably because, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, right. What's going on in the world today?
Yeah, and maybe they just these rational people decided that they would maybe shelve some of their differences because they had a larger thing that they all agreed upon, and a threat that they saw from the faith-based
but
folks.
Apparently they're making progress in burying their sectarianism, atheist sectarianism, to be able to sit down and communicate and work things out. This is great.
Okay, but I wouldn't get too excited
of
myself
course.
because knowing
human behavior.
Yeah, knowing human behavior, and especially the human people who by nature are rational and who turn their backs on faith, on the idea of, believing in some, supernatural kind of stuff. Those folks are by their very nature are the folks that, march to their own drummer. And they're not inclined to join groups. Do you think?
Right.
I really
absolutely.
think. Well, so
they're more individualistic, and with their little niche reasons and everything, they get into little spats and everything. I have to tell you, they're independent thinkers.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I consider myself an independent thinker, but I would not say I'm an atheist. Right. So I'm another little offshoot.
This includes agnostics.
Okay,
too, so
I would say I'm a person who says neither side can in any way prove their side. Neither can. There's no proof to be had here for sure. And I'm willing to give respect, actually, to both. One of the things I don't like about both sides, the atheists and the religious folks, are their disdain for each other. I don't like either of those.
Well, there are ecumenical groups out there that include free thinkers and non-theists and everything.
I don't like atheists who make, like Bill Maher and these guys make fun of people of faith. I think that's I think it's outrageous. I really do. Right. The mockery, for one thing. It's certainly not any way to change a mind. Yeah. It's a way to get the other side to dig in deeper.
Well, I think some progress is being made, really, because these groups that are at this rally, including the ecumenical groups, which include some non-theists, they're talking about stuff like that. There are discussions and everything, going on all the time. You just don't hear about them. The news media is more inclined to do the contrast and the fights and everything.
Right, although, and here again, I was probably listening to public radio. I think I heard someone the other day who's going to be at this rally being interviewed and talking about how much the people at the Reason rally need to look to organized religion as for some of the positives that are to be found there, for the sense of community, for the...
Well, they all know that. They know that. That's been under discussion, I know, in American Atheists since I was back in the 70s.
And here's another, even the importance of ritual in people's lives.
Well, they can't come up... One of the problems is they can't come up with ritual. The ones that have done the best are the Unitarian Universalists have more of that.
But all of that is there's so much good that has come, to throw the baby out with the bathwater in the mockery that can ensue about people's religion. Any religion held up to reason is ridiculous.
It's really become much more sophisticated. And I think they've learned some of the lessons over the years. The militants have had their day. And I think there's more reasoned approaches to this now, and fleshing out skepticism, as it's called sometimes.
Okay,
too.
You know what?
All the buses are filled up. I've been trying to get on a bus here.
You can't get a bus?
I'm going to drive if I have to. This is historic. This is really historic.
For those of you who don't know, this guy owns a bus company. What do you mean you can't get a bus?
What guy owns a bus company?
Oh, I was thinking you were George from... Oh, you're George from Moon.
Yeah,
I
right.
thought you were George from... George the bus guy.
No.
DeBolt. This whole time I think I'm talking to George the bus
Georges
guy.
in your back pocket here.
He was in Washington. It's the whole thing. Oh, that's so funny. Sorry, George.
Moon.
Yeah, you're George and Moon. Okay.
But I hope this guest you have on will flesh this out. But I'm definitely... if I have to drive myself, I'll drive there and see it. But I think it's going to be a historic thing, and I hope it isn't characterized by the media as
don't expect, George. Do not expect. Don't expect much from the media. The guest, by the way, is with a group called the Steel City Skeptics.
Oh,
I don't know if you know that group, but it's
okay.
Check them out.
All new groups have popped up.
Check him out, steelcityskeptics.net. He is a professor at Pitt, Professor Stephen Hurtle.
Excellent.
Okay?
Okay. Good talking to you, Lynn.
Good talking to you, whoever you are. Okay, goodbye. Now, the thing... Oh, let me get this final break in, and then I'll talk. I think I've said this before. What haven't I said before? This my problem with atheists and the faith-based... Let me talk more about that when we get back. It just... Both sides drive me nuts.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Pittsburgh City Paper's annual music guide is available now. Pick up one today for an inside look at the music scene in Pittsburgh. Plus Tosca, The Monster in the Hall, and Go Radio. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com.
If your walls could talk, what would they say?
I have held the same mirror for 13 years.
I have been decorated with purple dinosaurs, baseball teams, and football helmets.
I have witnessed 33 Thanksgiving dinners and 1 wedding proposal.
I have tiny notches marking the growth of 3 children.
I have caused a learning disability.
I am the reason that a 5th grader simply can't sit still.
I am responsible for a 5-year-old's rage.
Just because you can't see lead paint doesn't mean it's not on walls, doors, windows, and sills. Today, lead paint poisoning affects over 1 million children. If your home was built before 1978, your family could be at risk. Let's make all kids lead-free kids. Log on to leadfreekids.org or call 800-424-LEAD.
I am the reason a child has trouble hearing.
If your walls could talk, what would they say?
Brought to you by the Coalition to End Childhood Lead Poisoning, EPA, HUD, and the Ad Council.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, so just quickly, what I wanted to say is I find a lack of humility. I've tried to figure out what it is that bugs me. It's a lack of humility on the part of true believers on either side of this issue. An arrogance, which also I consider very human. An unwillingness not to know. I think humans fear nothing more than, well, the unknown. It's why little kids are scared of what's under their bed or in the dark or in their closet. And not knowing is so terrifying that it's why religion, I think, was invented. These, mythological stories of how we got here, why we're here, and then, that there's somebody up there looking after us, some big daddy. I understand all of that. But when people who buy into one of those creation stories and everything around them think they've got they're in receipt of they drive me nuts, of the answer. That is, to me, so lacking in humility and the understanding that however astonishing we are, human beings, this creation, Homo sapiens, and however great our brains might be, they're puny in attempting to comprehend where we are. Where are we? What are we doing here? We're like a who in Whoville. We're on a grain of pollen floating around, and that we somehow think I got the answer right here, is such, to my mind, such crap. I cannot believe it. On the other hand, I feel the same way about people who with absolute certainty, because they're afraid of believing in something they can't see, taste, feel, or touch. That scares them. That's scary too. What's that great quote? There's nothing, the only thing scarier than thinking that God doesn't exist is that God does exist. They're both scary and unsettling because both say to us, we're incapable of understanding. We don't know. And hell, once you acknowledge this puniness of our ability to comprehend why we're here, even where we are, the fact that we don't even understand this world we're in. I mean, and we have scientists who, can take it way out into the, you see what I'm saying? Anyone who adopts with certainty, God, ha, 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 or God who's watching over me. I think on both sides, if there's certainty, you're nuts or you're scared. And I think living with the uncertainty, which would place you in agnosticism, and you can also then be a member of a religion, respect its ritual, find comfort in that ritual, but just sort of daydream when they get into the real God stuff. Although God might, whatever that is, might be there, some creator. I sometimes look, you can get lost in looking at an ant dragging something across, and the complexity of something so small, the complexity of a molecule, and then to think there's not some creator seems silly. then to think there is a creator seems silly. I don't know. I don't pretend to know, and I think that's the proper position, frankly. Here's what Ray says. The only thing that bothers me about the modern atheist movement is one of their arguments against organized religion strikes me as a little specious. It goes sort of like this. 1, organized religion has committed horrific atrocities through the ages. True. Number 2, the atrocities committed were justified by twisted arguments supported by their dogma. True again. 3, if we didn't have these religions in the first place, we wouldn't have had these horrific crimes. And then he says, is that true? No, of course, that's not true. He says, I want to assure these people that humanity doesn't need supernatural reasons to behave inhumanely. But I also want to say, on the other hand, I do not need the threat of hell to behave humanely. And I think it's pathetic that some people actually believe that a human being will not be a good person in their life if they're not in fear of punishment in some other world. If that's what it takes, God, jeez. I mean, it's disgusting. Whatever happened to your own, whatever. Okay. And, you're absolutely right. Ray says you don't need supernatural reasons to behave inhumanely. We would just as likely torture and kill and invade over language, skin color, dress, or even right and left-handedness. I wonder if the atheists would also acknowledge without religion, mankind would not have produced the art, architecture, music, and literacy that was produced by these. Well, no, if you look at Western art in particular, it was just the church was so much behind the glorious works of art. But that was people expressing their gratitude to God in many ways, building him these extraordinary edifices, whatever. And would not great buildings and great art exist, though, without religion? I think, Ray, they would as well, wouldn't they? I don't know. It's all very confusing, isn't it? And I say live with the confusion. That's... What do you mean, sorry, you've reached the maximum number of open days? I hate these machines. Reminds me of the poor... Never mind. Okay, Allison Reddick writes, I'm late, but I thought of you and Chris Potter last night when I saw the photos of the group gathered in Florida. In other words, you were thinking about Potter's wonderful suggestion, and I'm signed on to it, to letting the liberals and the black people get their guns, and that'll solve the problem. You're right. At that like Al Sharpton, Ben Jealous kind of rally that they had with the parents of Trayvon, if that crowd, all those black people there, had all been openly sporting handguns, would the NRA start rethinking their stand your ground legislation, which seems to me to be a clear piece of legislation intended to allow white people to shoot black males, especially young black males in hoodies, because they feel threatened by them. Allison says, I'm not saying any of these people had guns or would be getting them, but if you imagine that they had come to that protest, like the Tea Party had gone to theirs, there'd be a whole different narrative. Oh, heck, what the... No, you're absolutely right. And there's something to be said for Potter's idea that the left needs to, if you want to have any standing left in the handgun and gun debate, arm yourself. Because these idiots on the other side think we never will. Do you think that the jerk who killed that kid would have been so quick to jump out of his car if he thought the kid might have had a gun? Oh, we're way out of time. Clarence quickly, though, writes, I just lost your thing, Clarence. I don't know what I did with it. I destroyed it. I deep-sixed it. Let me try to... Wait. Let me just try to find it. It's gone. Or maybe you didn't even send me anything. Did I just dream that? I swear. Send it again very quickly, and I'll try to get it in because we're pretty much done. Oh, and Ansel, you've written something too. Sorry. Lynn, the Republicans have been screaming for months now for Obama to get behind the Keystone Pipeline, and now that he has, of course, they're all over him. John Boehner stood beside a map of the U.S. and Canada yesterday displaying a broken pipeline, and he was quick to label Obama's efforts as the pipeline to nowhere. A month ago, Boehner stood in that very spot and berated the president for vetoing the pipeline. Oh, God. He says, so etch-a-sketch? Yeah, Boehner has his own issues in the etch-a-sketch department. It can give you a headache. It can drive you to drink, no doubt. Okay, this is my last chance. Thanks, Clarence. Here it is again. Here is a quote. Oh, I don't know, Clarence. I don't even see it here. It's not attached. Sorry. It is. Oh, there it is. I can hear my sister somewhere cackling. She thinks I'm the biggest ditz in the universe. Okay, here we go. Good people will always do good things. Evil people will always do evil things. But for good people to do evil things, that takes religion. Oh. I don't know if I would wanted to end the show on that. That is very provocative. For good people to do evil things, that takes religion. I don't think that's true. I mean, and I'll give you Nazi Germany. Did all those good Germans who let all that stuff happen, and the good Poles and the good, Dutch and the good everywhere those Nazis were, the good Italians, was that religion, or was that it was just flat out fear? It was going along with the people who had the power. Maybe the real thing is there are not that many good people in the world. I don't know. Is that it? Maybe. On that depressing note, we shall end this discussion and look forward to next week when we can talk some more. Okay? Have a great weekend. Say goodbye to this weather for a while, but have a great weekend anyway. Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.